Welcome to Airgun Extra, brought to you in association with Crackshot. In this week's episode, I'm taking a close look at an affordable PCP airgun, but before that, I'm back out on my grey squirrel control rounds, and I'm trying to find out what bait works best for pulling in the destructive rodents while I'm at it. Right, well, I'm in some woods where grey squirrels have caused a lot of tree damage over the past few years. We did have them on the back foot in this particular block, but typically some felling works were carried out in a neighbouring block, and that has caused an influx of displaced squirrels. Now, obviously we want to grind them down again. It's particularly important because around these woods they lost a lot of ash trees to ash dieback, so the young trees here are particularly important for regeneration, and the last thing they want is them getting bark stripped by grey squirrels. So I'm going to be shooting a feeder from within a hide, the most effective way as far as I'm concerned. That's a feeder that we have actually filmed at before, and I was actually going to take it down because there were no more squirrels coming to it, but as I said, this recent influx has kicked it off again. So I've got two feeders set up on the same tree, basically to increase capacity so I'm not always coming back and forth to make sure that it doesn't run empty. But what I've done for a bit of an experiment is I've loaded one with whole maize and one with peanuts, just for a bit of fun to see which they prefer. Now, as ever, my money is on the peanuts, but we'll get into the hide now and find out. That one was slightly inconclusive as far as the bait test goes, because I went ahead and took the shot before it had a chance to actually feed, because it just looked slightly concerned, like it had probably sensed we were here, and I wanted to go ahead and take that shot before it spooked. Now, my feeling is it was probably leaning towards the peanuts because it was on the peanut feeder, but we'll never know. Well, that is interesting. As I said at the outset, my money was very much on the peanuts, but that one was absolutely munching away at the maize. Well, the peanuts are creeping ahead now, but most importantly, we're getting some good, clean kills. Now the gun I'm using today is the FX Impact M4, compact model, sub 12 foot-pounds, 22 caliber, and it certainly is doing the business. Now, being so compact, it's handling brilliantly in the hide. It's also a very accurate little air gun. I'm currently running it on JTS dead center pellets, 16 grain. It's been absolutely stacking them on the range, and it's doing the same here. The most important thing, as I said, is we're getting those really nice decisive kills. Another little addition to this combo, actually probably worth mentioning, is I'm using the Helix silencer from Eagle Vision Cam. It is a brilliant little moderator, and obviously on a sub 12 airgun like this, it is just whisper quiet. There's another one to the peanuts, and I hope that looked as sharp to you as it did to me, because I had a crystal clear view, and I just hope that not too much of that is being lost through the scope cam. I'm actually using the Element Optics Helix scope this evening. Really nice optic. I've been using it for a while, and even now that the feeder is in pretty deep shade in amongst those trees, now that the sun's swung around, I'm still getting a nice, relatively bright sight picture. In fact, got another interesting optic here with me this evening. I don't want to talk too much, but it's the Element Optics Helix 1500, and apart from being a really compact and accurate laser rangefinder, it also has a ballistic calculator. So once you've inputted the relevant data for the ammo that you're using, it will show you on its display an accurate aiming solution, hold over or hold under whatever you need to apply to keep the shot dead on target at that distance. Now, obviously, I'm shooting squirrels off a feeder. It's pretty straightforward. That feeder is just this side of my zero range, so I'm just applying a little bit of hold under. However, when we first arrived, just before I settled in, I had a quick ping around with the rangefinder. The purpose of that was to establish the distance and the aiming points that I need for trees around and behind the feeding station, because should I spot squirrels that settle there and offer me a shot, I then know very quickly the aim off that I need to apply to shoot them cleanly. And I did it straight away rather than when they appear, because I don't really want to be waving the rangefinder around when squirrels are out, because I don't want to risk spooking them. And again, another one to the peanuts. Now, it's not exactly a very scientific test, but I think that's pretty conclusive that that's their first choice, bearing in mind that the maize is freely available and they're having to go and lift the lid to get to those peanuts. Now, I don't doubt that the maize would work perfectly well on its own if the peanuts weren't there as a distraction, and it does cost a bit less, but I think you also have to consider that extra pulling power of the peanuts if you've got other food sources, maybe natural food, pheasant feed or whatever, that you don't want those squirrels choosing over your feed station. Now, I was planning to shoot right through to darkness, but it is getting very uncomfortable. You may have seen in some of the shots there are a lot of midges about and they're really laying into both of us, but on top of that, I did something stupid to my back a couple of days ago and it is getting very uncomfortable hunched up in here, so I want to get moving, but we're going to be back again before too long. There are clearly still plenty of squirrels in this block of woodland and we need to get rid of them. Don't forget to give us a follow on the Airgun Extra Facebook page so we can keep you up to date with everything that we're up to. Right then, next up, we've got a review of a great affordable PCP that delivers a lot of bang for your buck. I've reviewed a few airguns from Kral over the past year and they've all impressed me with their combination of performance and value for money. This one takes that a stage further. Now this is the Kral Puncher Unica. Distributed in the UK by Rangerite, this great looking regulated PCP airgun has a recommended retail price of just £585. This is an adult-sized airgun. It weighs around 4 kilos and measures about 104 centimetres from muzzle to butt. Now, although quite substantial, it's well balanced and is very comfortable to shoot from all the usual stances. Now, that nice handling is largely down to its carefully designed Turkish walnut stock. That stock is ambidextrous and I think it looks great. Now the fore end has a fluted profile. It's actually quite slim and it feels really good in the hand. Now it's adorned with generous patches of neat patterned stippling on both sides and also has a recessed brass thread on the underside for the attachment of a supplied Picatinny rail for accessory attachment. Moving back, the trigger guard is actually incorporated into the walnut stock, and it sweeps back into a really comfortably contoured pistol grip, which features the same stippling and gives great trigger attack. Now, there is a large and very distinctively curved cutout behind the grip. Now, it seems to be designed for shooting with your thumb around, but I also find it perfectly comfortable to shoot thumb up. The cheek piece is nice and high and sufficiently high to give good scope alignment using the high mounts that you're likely to need to keep that scope clear of the magazine. Now, the butt section of the stock is finished with a discreet black spacer and then a soft, ventilated rubber butt pad which feels really good in the shoulder. The metalwork has a very neat black anodized finish, and the 580mm barrel features a full-length shroud. Now, apart from looking good, that shroud does provide a little bit of sound suppression, but that said, hunters are likely to want to stifle the muzzle report even more, and if you screw the end cap off of the shroud, that reveals a 1/2" UNF thread for straightforward silencer attachment. The Unica feels like a very solidly constructed air rifle and has some really useful features incorporated into its design. Now that includes a dual rail system for scope mounting. Now the two sections of rail give about 150mm of clamping space and can accommodate either dovetail or Picatinny type mounts. As I said earlier, you just need to be mindful that you choose mounts that are high enough to keep the scope clear of that protruding magazine. Quick reloading comes courtesy of a magazine that holds 14 pellets in 177 caliber and 12 in 22. It's kind to pellets and features a counter so you can keep an eye on how many rounds you have left. Now the Unica comes supplied with 2 magazines, plus you get a single shot tray. To load the magazine, you rotate the faceplate clockwise as far as it will go, and then drop a pellet nose first into the chamber to hold the inner cassette under spring tension. Now with that done, you then rotate the faceplate back the way it came, dropping a pellet into each chamber as you go. It really is a very straightforward process. The magazine is driven by a side lever action. Now it features a biathlon type drop down handle and is really well positioned for intuitive operation, although it can't be reversed for left-handers. Now the mechanism is actually sprung, so it starts to kick back into the rearward stroke as soon as you begin to pull it backwards. It's quick, it's reliable, and it's worked without a single hiccup during my weeks of testing. Considering its price point, the Unica has a very good trigger. I really like the match type blade, which can be adjusted for height and angle. The 2-stage mechanism is also adjustable, but as should always be the case, this one was set up very well at the factory. There's a reasonable amount of first stage travel before a very distinctive stop, and the second stage then breaks cleanly and absolutely predictably. There's a rocker type safety catch sensibly positioned just above the trigger blade. Now it's nice and positive, but it's near silent in operation. You push it back into the safe position and then you simply nudge it forwards when you're ready to take the shot. As I mentioned at the start, the Unica is a regulated airgun, and that makes for pretty consistent performance. On full output, the 177 caliber test gun is running at around 11.5 foot-pounds, and shot-to-shot consistency is remaining within 6 feet per second over a 10-shot string. Now, power is adjustable. The dial for doing that is positioned just behind the regulator gauge, and with it wound all the way down, this gun is churning out around 8 foot-pounds. So you've got a 330cc cylinder, maximum fill pressure is 200 bar, and onboard pressure is displayed on a clearly marked gauge at the front of the cylinder. From a full charge, you can expect around 120 shots in 177 caliber and as many as 145 in 22. When it's time to refill, simply twist the collar at the front of the cylinder to reveal the inlet and then plug in with the supplied probe. Now, the Unica's regulator is delivering good consistency, which combined with a decent barrel and a decent trigger should amount to good accuracy, and that is certainly the case here. Shooting from a bench in calm conditions, single hole groups, although sometimes ragged, were no problem at 30 meters, and I was able to consistently hit 40mm spinners at 50 meters. With those credentials, the Unica should prove very at home on the club range and also more than meets the standard for airgun pest control. So that is the Kral Puncher Unica. This Turkish-made regulated PCP airgun meets the needs of British airgun shooters extremely well, and I'm in no doubt that much of that is down to Rangerite's very close working relationship with Kral. Now, it's tough, it's accurate, it looks good, and it's very sensibly priced. There are also .25 caliber and FAC options available. What more could you ask for?
The Great British Shooting Show, held on the 13th to the 15th of February 2026 at the NEC Birmingham. Book tickets online at shootingshow.co.uk.
I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this week, but we'll be back again with more in a fortnight's time. Thanks again to Crackshot. There's a link to their website in the show description, and thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And do remember, there's loads of free content on our website, airgunextra.com. We've got hunting articles, reviews, and much, much more, all free to access. So as I said, we're back with more in a fortnight. In the meantime, enjoy your shooting and stay safe.